Hello, everyone. I'm Jay Rodriguez, and welcome back to Vibe with Pride. Now, listen, we have been doing this series for a couple months now, and we are so thrilled about today's special guest. A little bit of housekeeping. Please, if you have a moment and you're watching this on an extra device, go ahead and tell your friends that we're broadcasting on San Diego Pride's YouTube and Facebook page right now. Also, during the course of our interview, our time together, if you feel so inclined and you're in a space to give, please consider donating to San Diego Pride, because as you know, many of our prides have really taken a hit in the past year, and they do such great and incredible work. This is an extension of that work, and we're about to have an incredible conversation. Now I've used that word twice. We're about to have a dynamic conversation with two great performers who really have done a lot for the community, but moreover have really a window into this world of nightlife and culture and where that intersects with activism. So without further ado, please say hello to Paris Sukomi Max and, of course, Nadja Baskins. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
I'm so thrilled to be virtually chatting with each of you. Hopefully things will get better and we can see each other in person. But thank you for taking some time to have a chat with us here on Vibe with Pride.
Thank you for being here.
I just watched Jay in Grey's Anatomy. He was almost dying in an airplane. And Meredith and a dentist had to help him. So I was like, oh, I'm having a full circle moment here tonight. This is rad.
I'm definitely the guy who pops up on your shows when you're least expecting it. And I'm
saying.
Yes, I'm the worst with self-promotion because I'll post one post on social media and be like, they know. But during the pandemic, everyone's been popping up and kind of catching up on everything like I did with the both of you. I want to, well, I don't want to apologize, but I had a great time trolling your social media because I want to make sure that I can get it was great, but I got to see so many of your performances, and Paris, you and I have kind of had a lot of crossover in nightlife in San Diego and beyond. And I actually really, in preparation of this interview, learned a lot about you. I knew you as a performer. I knew you were a designer. I really didn't know much about. I knew you were, an eloquent speaker when it came to the community, but you've really found a way to sort of balance, the entertainment performer side of you with a level of activism. So how do you balance both? And how do you keep, or are they just one and the same?
Well, okay. So here's the thing. I became an entertainer. So I came out very young. I came out when I was 11.
So like 3 years ago.
Oh yeah, totally. No, but I came out so young, and I started entertaining very young. Nadja knows this. Like, she met me very young.
In high school still.
Yeah, illegally going into nightclubs. Yes.
Oh my God.
With my brother's ID, because I was like, I'm in full drag. Who's gonna know?
Yeah.
But also, so I started becoming busy with my entertainment life and all this. I was able to perform a lot. And so I was like, I'm like, I don't want it to just be like I'm taking. I wanted it to be like, okay, cool. Like, this world has been taking care of you. My parents were not willing to pay for design school for fashion design. They're very lovely people, but they're very traditional in their Filipino and Japanese ways. That they took care of my sister's medical field job, my brother's medical field, my other brother who's in law, but they didn't see fashion design as a viable career. So they weren't willing to support me in that. And that's what drag did to me. So I was like, wait, if I'm getting all these benefits from doing drag, I need to start being able to give back. So that's where the activism side came out, because I was like, I don't want to be one of those girls that just goes out and just takes. I want to be able to give back too, because I know like it kind of worked out nicely for me.
Yeah.
But, you know, like sometimes you get a recircle moment of like, oh, okay, like, yeah, this is for real. Like this community really did raise me. So yeah.
I agree. I had similar experiences. You know, a lot of people know that my career started at 18 in Rent, and I also was smuggled into nightlife at 18. Granted, I was for the first year of Rent, I was in Canada, and legal drinking age was 19. But it was really the trans women and the drag entertainers who would sneak me in because I was playing a drag queen. They're like, "This is education. This is fine.
Help you out real quick."
Yeah, let's break the law a little bit. But Nadja, I want to talk to you because you happen to be a permanent fixture in Chicago and San Diego with your performances, which, by the way, if you're not following Nadja on social media, we'll make sure we put up her social media, because please follow both of our great entertainers. But as a trans person who happens to be a fantastic entertainer, how do you feel about trans folks when it came to shows like RuPaul's Drag Race? There early on was like this weird kind of pushback, like, oh, well, that ain't drag. And to me, that was mind-boggling, because I grew up with trans women that we called showgirls, basically, to honor their artistry on stage. Oh, did we lose Nadja?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was for you. That I was like, well, she looks gorgeous.
I thought you were still talking at first. I'm sorry.
Like it felt like the minute that the world thought they knew what the hell was going on stage with entertainers, pop culture had this moment where they were like, it felt like when RuPaul's Drag Race came out, everyone thought they had a window into what it's like to see a show featuring people who perform in the art form of drag. But truth be told, trans women have always been a part of that story.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that I love RuPaul's Drag Race for giving a platform for trans women and entertainers. There are so many talented women out there. So that has really helped elevate their careers and educate the community as well.
That's true. Yeah, I thought it was kind of good because a lot of the backstory stuff, I think the power of Drag Race, which, by the way, Drag Race UK is on tonight, but the power of it and being able to tell these stories, especially when it comes to the trans experience, non-binary experience. These are things that even within our own community, we have people who happen maybe to be cis and gay or queer and don't really know much about that experience. And there they have a show where they're kind of getting a window in. I want to talk about the reflection. Let's broaden this out a little bit. When you see trans stories being told on TV, Paris, do you feel we're getting closer to accurate and positive, like, representation of the trans experience? I know. That's why I'm asking.
Wait, so here's my thing. So even with the RuPaul's Drag Race thing, I, as a reasonable person, always thinks like, what are these producers and these heads sitting on a round table talking about when they are bringing up these issues? And I always try to also be considerate that, like, not everybody does have full control of whatever, even if the show is at their marker, their name is at the marker of the show. Not everybody has full control of that. Every show that wants to be really nice and progressive wants to do their best to be inclusive about everything, but not everybody still has the full control of that, because at the end of the day, you still have a producer that's saying, hey, we still need this to be marketable to a general audience too. So it still has to be slightly filtered down.
Mm-hmm. I know.
While we're still coming up. So while we're still coming up, and then we're meeting at this weird middle currently where, we're trying to do everything at everybody's comfort level, not realizing in full that, like, everybody's comfort level is so different. So when you tone down somebody's voice, you're hurting a very vulnerable community's feelings. But then when you are elevating somebody else's voice because they are in the route of educating themselves, you might also be silencing them into getting their education because they might feel a little aggressive about it.
I'll say this, to that point, I feel like I've gotten, sorry, my TV was floating a weird graphic and I was like, no. Yeah. I feel like for me, working in entertainment, specifically in spaces where they're thinking they can throw a rainbow on something, especially when it comes to telling us, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And then we have to be as queer or as trans or as anything under our LGBTQIA umbrella that they're comfortable with, to me is, I think, maybe where the work begins. But Nadja, when it comes to nightlife, you're fortunate where you've been working in many different cities. You've been on a bunch of stages, and sometimes our community can feel like it's not as inclusive as it should be. So what can we do better, if for the folks watching, perhaps, patrons to bar owners and club owners, what can we do better to be more inclusive?
I think we can tear down those boxes. Human nature, we want to throw each other into boxes, and I think tearing them down, let's rip off the lids, and that would help for one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, when you were, Paris, and I know that you shared this, Nadja, that you guys were out. You folks were out early. You were out at the club doing the kiki. Do you see any similarities between what you do now and some of the things that you were interested in as a young person?
So for me, I always just wanted to be involved. I wanted to be in there. I wanted to be in those conversations. I wanted to sit on tables that I probably had no background or education to sit on, but I was like, no, I want to be there because I want to be a listening ear. But that was also in the nightclub because I was like, I want to be there in those tables with those guys, mainly cis gay men who were producing these shows. And I was like, wait, why are you booking this, and this when there's this full thing that's available to you that could be rad? And I was like, why are you booking this, and this when actually it's kind of entertaining to have? So when I first started doing drag, nobody wanted to book me as a performer on stage. It wasn't me performing on stage. So I had to find a platform for myself. So where did everybody like me? They liked me as a dancer. They were like, oh, she dances and she dresses fun. So I go danced for so long.
I remember,
Yeah, before anybody would book me to do a regular show, a regular booking show. So I'm like, I had to tell nightclub guys that I'm like, hey, you know what? Drag queens and trans women can be really fun on the go-go box. We can be there for the ambiance. We can be there for the costume. We can be there for the look. You tell me
body, yaddy, yaddy.
I mean, I will give you all of it within reason. Honey.
I want to talk. I want to step back from this because we're going to revisit in a bit. But I want to talk and just kind of lighten things up a little bit. It's been a year. We've been in this pandemic for a year, and a lot of growth has happened, and there's been some really positive thing that's come out of this, nightmare for so many. But I want to just, I have found myself thinking I'm some kind of chef. Trying to make all kinds of things, but not having enough in the house. So I wanted to ask you some silly questions about during the pandemic. What did either one of you, and I'll start with you, Nadja, did you make anything that either went tragically wrong, or did you discover that tuna fish and peanut butter go well together? Did you come up with the magic? You know what I'm saying?
I'm laughing because I have jumped on the being vegan, vegetarian train all throughout my life. And when the pandemic first happened, I was making steaks because I wanted to make the perfect steak 3 times a week.
I wonder what part about that. I ate more decadently during the pandemic because I think it was comforting for me.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, let me make my own food. I don't want to go nowhere. So yeah, that was, but I did not perfect it. I mean, it came out okay, but.
Well, Mama, we know Paris. You check many boxes, Paris, of what you can do. Can she cook?
No. Oh, absolutely not. No. And I know. And
your mama cooks all her food for her.
Your mom makes your food?
Yes. Okay.
Yes. I'm calling you out.
I love it. I love it. I love that.
No, so zero cooking for me. I just don't have, I don't know what happened, but I just don't have the eye or the time or the anything for it. It's just, I tried. Don't get me wrong. I definitely did try during
Yeah, what you
quarantine.
tried? Tell us about what you tried. What was the
Huh?
last thing you tried
So,
and you were like,
wait, okay, wait. So it was from the beginning of quarantine because I live on my own, but my family lives very close to me. We're all very forced to live very close to each other. It's just by rules of our family.
And that's why she doesn't know how to cook, because
Yeah. Everybody else knows how to cook. I do not. In the beginning of quarantine, I asked my mom very kindly. I was like, "Hi, how about the easiest thing that you can do, like the baked sushi?" Because my mom does this amazing baked sushi, which is very quick and easy, and all this. And I failed on it miserably. The rice was super soggy, so it would not go along with everything. And then it made a really icky, mushy feeling to it. With the lobster and the crab, which I also don't think I cooked right. So it's probably not good to do that with baked sushi. So, but then here's what happened.
Bottom line, Jay, she can't cook.
But 2 weeks later, I did call my mom and my dad, and I was like, "Hey, like, how about like I just stay at your house?" like, and this is takes into the first quarantine because I was like, "Yeah, I don't know how to cook. I don't know, like I'm trying at my best to stay home, period."
Yeah.
So
Me
I
too.
was like, I don't want to make it a thing that I have to go out. So I was like, how about
you
I
get
stay
me
at your house? Yeah. Which they loved actually, but that was a very long 4 months.
Listen, I'm sure. And during the pandemic, Nadja, I saw on your Instagram that you expanded your home with an additional family member. I have a fur baby here, but I saw that this is Rico. But I know that can you tell us who you brought into the family this year?
I brought Chloe into my home this year. She was an additional cat that I adopted after my cat of 20 years passed away.
I'm so sorry.
And she's been a wonderful addition to my home.
I love that. Yeah. How about now? Listen, Paris, you do have to feed pets, and you can buy pre-made pet foods. So, do you have any pets?
Me?
Yes.
I have 4 dogs.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What kind of dogs?
I have Chinese Shar-Peis. So actually, right now I have.
Those are the wrinkle dogs for people watching. Those are the.
Yeah. So it's a bulldog with very long hair.
Yeah.
So I have 3 of them now. But I have one that is like a Chihuahua mix that we also adopted afterwards. But yeah, so I had Simba and Nala that we did from a breeder's rescue. And I didn't know that they weren't fixed yet when we had rescued. So we ended up with 2 more kids, which is Pebbles and Bam Bam. And so Simba passed away. But he just during quarantine, but it was fine because he was older.
Yeah.
Like he was definitely at that point where he would accidentally poop and he would be so ashamed of it and try to cover it. And I'm like, oh
honestly,
no, baby, it's all good.
There.
It's all good, boo. Like I've done that in a nightclub restroom. It's all good. Yeah, so it's fine. But yeah, I got 4 and thank goodness to mom and dad for knowing a good diet for the kids. So
good. That's amazing. I think also too, I found such, and I think I have this in common with a lot of LGBTQ plus folks, specifically people, you're so blessed, Paris, to have family support. But for people like me who didn't really have that, I really found that the fur babies really became
your family.
Emotional support. Yeah, family. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely love that, the extent of support that I did have with my family, but it did come with work.
That's true.
For me to get into this place with my family. This wasn't something that kind of landed lovely for me, but it's in a good place now. So that's great. But I definitely still fully connected immediately to my girl Nadja. When I first started coming out, and to all of my girls, we have a very solid chosen family that I'm like, yeah, we got this.
Nadja, I actually want to ask you about that. Nadja, in your bio, you were sharing about your upbringing and how really, I mean, you know, I think we're similar in age, and when we're coming up, there weren't a lot of resources. You shared in your bio about, you know, being supported and really learning via trans women who are older. Can you share a little bit about that time for people? Because I think what we're talking about here is like really family of choice, people that you decide are your blood.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, we're similar in age. And so coming up in like the 90s, my role models and girls I look up to were like, I grew up in Chicago. So like Baton, world famous Baton, Mimi Marks.
Mimi Marks, I love Mimi Marks.
Yes, like there's so many girls that were like, I had to look up to. And I feel fortunate in that aspect because being a young trans woman, you don't know what to do, you know, where to go, and a lot, especially back then. And girls like them, women like them, really paved the way for me to become the woman I am today.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's we don't highlight that era enough. It was before social media and stuff, and
Exactly.
we know, and we keep these stories in our hearts, and we try to share them so that people know. But it isn't like Instagrammable. We can throw back old, you know, like I have hard copy pictures of people that I don't want forgotten about because we didn't have Instagram back then, so we weren't documenting every 2
We
seconds.
really
of our
didn't.
journey.
We used to call each other back then, and now it's like
People run from the phone when it rings.
It's all
Yeah,
like through social media or texting. So yeah.
I agree. I think that's a beautiful thing. You know, when it comes to you know, our upbringings and how we're raised and all that, what do you say to the young, perhaps young trans folks who are watching you right now, or may see this after we post it, who are kind of, maybe they don't have access to a Mimi Marks in the moment. I know, Paris, you have an email. I'm going to get to that. But Nadja, what would your advice be to a younger trans human who's coming out and they're trying to live their truth and they just don't have the immediate support right there and then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, be true to yourself always, and know that your feelings are valid, and people who love you will support you and guide you through that no matter what. It's a lot of work, but it helps to have those around you that love you.
I love that. Yeah, I agree. I believe you can kind of, there's so many resources now to reach out and find someone. I'm like, at this point, I feel like I got so many Rodriguez kids under my arms. But Paris, you have you established this sort of email, which is judgment free, called Hey Auntie Paris. So can you share with us what it is and why you decided to do this?
Okay, so Hey Auntie Paris came from heyauntie.paris@gmail.com, and yes, it's a Gmail account. It's just a regular email account. I didn't make it official or anything because I wasn't trying to pay that. No, just kidding. No, so so I go to a lot of colleges and I speak at a lot of colleges, and then I also go and talk to a lot of youth programs, and I also talk to a lot of like high schools and middle, you know, like middle schools and all this stuff. So I wanted this email of, I know that I always try to, no matter what, I end every session or every interview, everything, where it's like, you know, an open forum for questions or anything like that. But I do understand that for myself, when I was 11, 12 years old, 13 years old, I did not have that in me to ask those questions publicly. Like to stand up in a room and ask that question of like,
I wouldn't have felt comfortable. I don't know, Nadja, if you are the same. I don't know if I didn't see myself reflected. And I thought I actually, to be honest, I thought I was the only one. I didn't see any.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys, I think you both came out a little earlier than me. I was like 18 and I met queer people for the first time and LGBTQ plus people. And I remember being like, oh my God, they are what I am.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think I would have felt comfortable going up to, like, I wouldn't have had the language.
But even like, I try to make myself available after everything. And there are some that do come up, but they still ask fairly general questions.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted a different space where it's like, hold up, you did look like you had questions. If you did have questions, it's right there on that desk, on that table, on your way out. My card is right there. You email this and I will be more than happy to answer any of your questions.
I love that.
Within full respect, and also that if you are of a certain age, like make sure that your guardian or your parent or your guidance counselor can walk us through together. Like we can do this together with them, because I don't want to be in that conversation alone necessarily. I still have to be legally safe about everything.
Sure, 100%.
So yeah, no, it's just a nice little. It's been nice because they'll give me their full updates during quarantine.
I love it. And Nadja, you said that you and Paris have known each other for a very long time, so this was not a prepared, approved question, but I'm going to ask you a funny question because I didn't want you to know ahead of time. Nadja, what is one of the funnier memories you have of Paris from back in the day?
Okay, wait, be careful, girl.
There's so many. I'm like,
I didn't put that in.
Hey.
What is it? No, Nadja and I had so many adventures though.
So many. I've known her since she was like literally right out of high school.
I was like 16, 17.
Well, I'm Paris. I'm going to ask you the same thing about Nadja. So,
Oh, I already have that.
She probably has many. No, like seriously, like she has always composed herself, and it speaks volumes to her foundation where she came from. She's always composed herself in the most classiest way, but she's had funny moments and probably just being goofy and dancing like randomly in some bar. Like that's
I think Paris. So don't you?
I can probably think of another one, but I'm like, that's the one right now.
So here's Nadja. I know that this is Nadja's favorite thing about me. So I dance like an old person.
Yes, exactly.
I knew that's what you were trying to point out.
Exactly. Just
okay. So I have this thing where if everybody gets super serious,
she's always done that.
And I'm about to do it right now. No, I'm about to do it right now. And I have no shame about it. But it's like the silliest thing because I swear to you, Nadja could be like, like we could just be getting out of a show. We're rolling up to Riches, super tired.
It's so random.
And I'm like living her best life, flipping her hair and, doing all this stuff. And then I'm over here doing.
And I just start busting up. I'll do it randomly.
In the room. And it's, that's like my favorite. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. By the way, if you're watching this right now, and just know that the comment section is open and we're going to get to your questions in about 15 minutes. So please go ahead and load that comment section up and we'll get to those questions in just a couple minutes.
I don't even love all that.
I love talking about all this stuff because it's just, we all have these memories with each other. And now when we haven't, many of us haven't been able to see our friends and stuff, it just brings back good vibes. We're here at Vibe. Speaking of Vibe, we're here at Vibe with Pride. I had a show, at a bar, a night called The Vibe before the pandemic. And then obviously kind of missed out on doing all the Prides and stuff. So when I partnered with San Diego Pride, we call it Vibe with Pride. But I wanted to ask you each, and Nadja, I'll go to you first. But what does Pride mean to you?
Pride means to me, oh my gosh, that's a very in-depth question.
I know it's very broad. I know it's broad.
It is. It just means embracing who you are and not expecting the entire world to get on board with that, but also being kind, loving them, and educating them in the process.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've learned this year is, I always assume that my queerness is so evident, and in some spaces I get a pass, and then and it's like, well, it's fine, but just don't shove it in my face and stuff. And so, finding that weird balance of being authentic while also educating and not, actually just being true in every moment is always like the lesson. And Paris, for you, what does Pride mean for you? I mean, we've attended so many Prides, but what's
Pride for me is safe. It's my safe space. So that was my first interaction. At that time, at 12 years old, with one of my best friends from school, and my mom took me to San Diego Pride for the first time because I just came out, and that was my first time. So my learning about gayness or transness was unfortunately due to like TV talk shows, like it was like Jerry Springer and
Maury,
So in my heart, I saw that being gay was just something that was so mocked, and being trans was just something that was so comical to people. And I was like, what a sad, like that was kind of a bad mindset to have, you know, when you were trying to find yourself and you're like, wait, I am that person on that screen, and everybody in the audience is calling them a man, like, you're a man, like, and all these things. And I was like, oh my goodness. Pride was my first one where I saw couples, like I saw husbands, and I saw husbands with their kids. I saw wives, and I saw them holding hands, and it was the intimacy that I got to see from my cousins and my aunts and uncles, that, you know, because they had such a definition of what a relationship should be. The intimacy that I saw was finally relatable to me as a, at that time, gay person, and then now as a trans person. So
right,
I like that. It's my safe space.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think, you know, we've all kind of like touched on that, which I think is the thing that I like most about Pride, is that I will concur. I think there was also parts of the community that in my bubble at the time, at my first Pride, I hadn't been exposed to so many other different people who were under our umbrella. I remember the first time that I almost like peed my pants when the Dykes on Bikes came around, and I was like, ah, because it was so loud. And I thought it was like thunder or something, and I didn't know, I wasn't prepared. And now it's my favorite part of the Pride
My favorite part.
It's my favorite part.
Parade.
It's just I love seeing you know, so many people who are just living authentically and just kind of being who they are in such a beautiful way. You know, one of the prides that did go off this year was Mardi Gras in Sydney, Australia, and so they got to celebrate. I'm hoping that we'll get to have some kind of pride together. We're still working out the details there. I wanted to ask about some funny moments on stage before we dip into some more serious topics. But I know that as entertainers, we always have something that goes wrong. And so I'm going to start with you, Nadja. And I was going to ask, have you ever had a hair mishap or a wardrobe malfunction? And if so, what's your favorite memory that you're like, I can laugh about it now? But
okay, I will not classify my favorite memory, but I have had all of those, Jay. I've had my hair fall off, like a wig, when my hair was shaved and I was bald, and people were like, what? But you just push through it. a lot of moments, a lot of moments.
Oh my God.
You are an entertainer yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Paris, what about you? Do you have a memorable like on stage mishap?
I've had a lot. But I've also had a lot of saving Nadja. I've like had to run up to her while she was on stage and like cover her boob. like
my boobs have popped out a lot. I forgot about that. Yeah, my ladies always pop out on stage for some reason.
That's right.
Mine was definitely my hair. Like I've had my hair moment, because I think that's definitely a given. But I've also had specific body part moments. So I'm like, oh my goodness. But then, you know what, honey? Like when you're a showgirl, you learn to just,
you work through it.
Yeah, you pose a certain different way. And
that's right. I agree.
You know, it's like it's happening.
My first, you know, I was playing Angel, it was the drag character in Rent for 5 years, and there was a duet called I'll Cover You, and there was a dance break, and I'm dancing.
Oh, I
with
love that.
And his arm, he has to kind of like put me under his arm, and I would always tell the dudes, I was like, be careful of the wig. It's not glued on, it's not pinned, it's just a headband on elastic. And if like, it would always be an understudy, and I always loved them, but hand would just go right here and shove my wig off in the middle of it, and it would go flying to the point where I gotta finish singing the duet. So I was like, okay, here we go.
Hold up though. Okay, I get to ask a question though. Okay,
yes.
You work in theater. How do they not pin these things into your head?
Listen,
I get it.
The first time, Jay, that should never happen again.
I know this the way that they did it in the Broadway cast was different than when I did it in Canada for the first year of my doing it. But now I had a lace front in Canada. They pinned it into a wig cap. It was on. In New York, iconically, there was this headband. And it was a hat wig, like meaning a hat, blunt block, like shake and go with a big bouffant. And he would put a headband with elastic that would snap. You had a headache. You had like impressions on the side of your head at lunch. I mean, it was terrible. But anyway,
yes, but it also doesn't work.
It didn't work. It was not effective, but I guess, at the time, whatever. I want to say, listen, first of all, thank you so much for both being so honest. We're joking, we're talking about all these things, and we're holding also space for the fact that people come out at different times and their experiences may be different. So I'm hoping as people are watching this that they feel inspired. But what I want to also talk about and acknowledge is that, while we may have had some moments this year where we learned a lot about ourselves, we're also aware that in the world, specifically right now, in this moment, we're having severe and aggressive attacks against Asian Americans and also Black trans women. Now, within the community, I think it's been a long time issue. You see on dating apps, it'll say no Blacks, no Asians, no femmes, no fats. All the words we've always seen and known have existed in even within our own community. You can imagine on a global level, it's the racism and bigotry, and frankly, just uneducated vernacular has always been around. But now it is exponentially higher with violence. So, Nadja, I want to talk to you as a Black trans woman. My heart aches for the amount of beautiful sisters and brothers and fam that we have lost due to people's ignorance. How can we change that? How can we grow? Because it makes me so angry and sad.
Jay, I don't think it's something that can be taught. It's either in you or it isn't. And the hatred that we have seen throughout the last year has been incredible on a political level, it's really all across the board. But how can we change that? Just change. I think everybody has that little voice in their head to say, this is not right. That's it.
That part. Sometimes it's as simple as just acknowledging, this isn't right. And I mean that when I say, like, if you're at a brunch or at a something and someone says something, maybe be the one to be like, what, don't say that. Maybe be the one to make the record scratch. Paris, I want to talk to you. Obviously, the world is discussing now the rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans and South Pacific Islanders. And it's painful to watch, but it's also very, very it's become political, and it seems to be a common sense issue. Stop attacking people. How does this make you feel?
So I do have a certain part of privilege in me that I know that wherever I am in my workspace, it's my business. Like, I'm safe. I know that wherever I do socialize in, it's within my community. I may get a couple of stares in there. I may get a couple of inappropriate jokes in there. But at the end of the day, I am safe. My heart and my worry right now is more towards I have a very large family. It's like thinking that something that is very, something like this could happen to my mom. And I don't know how I could. Oh my goodness, like I don't know how I would be able to handle myself if anything happened if anything happened to my mom, period. But if anything like this ever happened to my mom that I'm so close to and I'm so loved, because she's the kindest woman in the world, but she immigrated here in the 70s, and she's like, everybody thinks that she's a quiet person, but actually at the end of the day, she's not actually a quiet person. She just doesn't speak out so much because she's very self-conscious about her accent and the way that she speaks. So it's just like to think that she's already carried this for so long, and then have her children grow up and go into their careers, and then now at her age now that she could potentially be hurt again because of who she is. I don't know how I could personally handle it. I'm very much hoping that we start from the root of things. Like, there's always a starting point to everything that kind of triggers wrong and goes wrong for everybody. So, I mean, how about we start with addressing each other when we're bringing up things that are biased, like when we're bringing up offensive stereotypes, I know for the longest time on stage was, everybody called me Paris Love You Long Time. And it was just a fun name to them. But now I'm learning that I don't want to make myself being Asian, a trivial thing. So please take that out of the realm. I don't want me being Paris Love You Long Time being a part of the introduction to me being a performer. No, Paris is going to come up and perform. There we go. But let's start nicking away at the little stereotypes that we've had, because what happens a lot with stereotypes is it helps us excuse a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
It helps us excuse a lot of things that we, if I was to, and let me preface this as just an example of, oh, hell no, girl, no, bye, Felicia, da 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 da, and do this stereotypical Black queen stereotype of being an angry Black woman type of moment. A lot of us did that throughout the 90s and throughout the 2000s. We did the head roll, we did the fingers, we did the everything. I'm like, let's see who actually that was rooted from and what we're actually sharing when we're doing that. Let's start, there's 8,000 ways to be funny without having to be offensive or having to silence a voice on the way.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, if you're a truly funny person, you don't have to make fun of a person.
I literally just said that yesterday. I was having a conversation. I was like, if your jokes are offensive, it's not a well-crafted joke. Like, you're not, you have to be crude to make it work.
You're lazy.
Yeah, you talked about something that we talk about this a lot as the Black Lives Matter movement is continuing and sort of really hit an apex last summer. People, had to really look at, I think, their behavior when it came to appropriating Black culture, Black things.
Mm-hmm.
If they were, and they're not even in the same breath supportive of Black artists, of giving them equity in actual billing of things. I've known places that refuse to put myself or other people of color who are hosting a night or performing there as the main picture, because they're like, well, we don't want people to think it's hip hop night, and if we put the picture of Jay, it's going to be Latin night. And it's like, you know what I mean? And there's even within the community, Well, now listen, I want to open this up to some questions. We're going to get some questions from Tyler. If you want to go ahead and send me some of the DMs. I have my laptop on, so you don't have to email me. My laptop has been giving me such tech issues. But before we go to some viewer questions, how can people support trans entertainers? I mean, I always feel like I feel like so many of my trans brothers and sisters and fam who happen to work in nightlife and maybe they're not working, I'm like, put your Venmo and PayPal in your Instagram. I mean, let's all send you a little, because we all got to support each other. But really, how can we, start supporting people, especially those who are displaced in nightlife?
I think we can not tear each other down and realize there's so many different levels of talent and personalities. And I do feel like a lot of people are these days. I've seen a lot of my girlfriends who are the most amazing entertainers, and that's their only form of income, do virtual shows and things like that. And people are jumping on board and doing that. So
yeah, I love that.
Continue to do that. Just continue to do that.
Listen, that's why this bedroom looks like this. I'm like, this is literally my little performance area.
All right,
yeah. By the way, do you have any?
I will tip you for your show, Jay. Yeah. By the way, Jay, yes. I have to add, I love your Musical Mondays.
Oh,
your edition was one of my favorites ever.
I'm gonna do it not this Monday, next Monday again. I just do some covers.
Yes,
but,
please.
I want to
always
ask
included.
You,
it's like.
Who would you recommend? Thank you. Who would you recommend people follow? Friends of yours or people you look up to who you think are really, if you want to support trans folks, you want to support trans artists, like who outside? Obviously, if you're watching this, you need to make sure you're following Paris and Nadja. But who else do you feel is a good thought leader or someone who's a great entertainer?
For myself, I would definitely suggest Vancie Vega. She was going to join us this evening. She wasn't able to, but
Amazing.
And
She
Vancie.
is a good guide because she's very candid and very she's very honest about her trans journey, about her journey with silicone injections. And
Yeah.
so she gives a lot of medical guidance as well as to like like girls, like it's not worth it at this point in life to go about it in this way. And but also just her honesty is very refreshing from somebody who is in their transition stage or going into it, like where you can do it safely and at the end of the day very safe for you, because she's also about like making sure to check up on mental health and making sure that you're
She has some
following
great
up on
chats.
yourself.
I agree. Follow Vancie Vega. Nadja, anyone that you're like, you need to follow my sister or my fam or someone that is just out there that you feel is
Oh
worth
my gosh, Jade, that is such a broad question because there's so many
so
talented
many good people.
I would say Lolita Vanties.
Yes,
I her like blossom from a young drag queen to an amazing entertainer and person. So, but I mean, there's literally like probably 30 other girls.
So start there. Start there, everyone. I got Vancie and Dita. I want to ask you this question. I'm going to stick with you, Nadja, for the question section here. Jenny is asking, what is your favorite performance song? Like, is there an artist or song that you love? Like, you're like, that's my go-to. That is when that is on, I will give you a show.
For myself, my favorite. I'm a very jazzy girl, so I like old school stuff, like Fosse, all that jazz, like Broadway entertainers. Yeah. I haven't been on Broadway, but you have, so you get it. So yeah, like I love all that, but everybody, seriously, yeah. But that would be my first choice.
Yeah.
Your question?
Yeah, so that's great. Paris, I have some people asking about advice for trans youth in a conservative and transphobic environment. So if they're trans and that's their environment, but also like trans kids in sports. So Paris, I'd love for you to weigh in on that.
Remember that your environment that you are around right now is not going to be the environment that you're in forever. So let me make sure that that's very clear right now. You will get out of that environment and you will be fine. Like, that's full blank clear. But what I do want you to know is that when you are in a harsher environment like that, I want you to make sure that you take every bad, and I know that you are going to hear bad. Okay, you're going to hear one thing that's bad, but remember to take a little roster of all the good, because this is the one bad that somebody's going to point out to you. Okay, but then there's going to be this thing that's good about you. There's this thing that's good about you. Make sure that you are constantly taking inventory within yourself, and you're saying like, okay, this is also what this person said. This isn't what I am. This is not who I am.
Right. That's not going to define me.
That's not, no, Mary. That's not how this is going to work. And then the other part of that too, though, is you have to, I encourage you to find at least one person, just one person that you trust. Just one person that you do trust. And, have the honest conversation with this person and be like, hey, I trust you. And make sure to say those words. I trust you. Because you're letting this person know that at this moment in time, that person is your lifeline. So it's going to be the person you're going to be able to confide to and kind of help to. Remember, that's somebody to help you. That's not somebody who's going to totally get you through this and over this and move forward from this. You have to depend on yourself a little bit throughout this too.
Yeah,
so
great.
Just do those couple of things, honey.
Love it. I'm just going to open this up to either one of you, Nadja or Paris. How has quarantine affected? This is from Cameron, who's asking, how has quarantine affected your mental health? I'll go. I'll answer. I'll actually answer this. I'll be honest. In the beginning, I thought this was going to be a short thing. But as someone who's a gig worker and relies on audiences to make my living when I'm not working in television, I was like, oh, I'm not prepared for this. And to be honest, it really did mess with my. I had to really look at my self-worth not being aligned with my work, or if I was working, it did not make me more worthy. You know, I'm just I'm still my self-worth needed to be intact whether I was working or not working. And I realized that during quarantine, I had to really try to just get to know me without all the noise around me. And that took me a minute. I mean, I've been going live every single day on Facebook and Instagram for almost a year. April 11th will be a year. And I made the commitment, and people have seen me in not such a great mood, or emotional, or happy. And, you know, I think it helped me not feel like such a clown, in the sense that people like when I'm clowny or entertaining, but also I'm not always like that. I'm a human being.
Vulnerable.
So you're going to see messy, you're going to see vulnerability, you're going to see strength, you're going to see confidence, but I want room to be all those things at any given moment.
I wish that we had this conversation with you like a year ago, because that's what I should have heard, is that, like, you know, being busy, which I am, you know, everybody who knows me knows that I am a very busy person. I'm a very scheduled person. I have a very militant life with my schedule and my career and everything. So I should have heard that. Jeez. It was not.
Took me a year.
I'm not right. I'm like, I wasn't. I'm not good in solitary. I feed off of energy, and I love being around people. I love being social, and it really went from 0 to 60. And then on top of that, I also have a staff of 65 who I also was trying to carry over through this and be like, hey guys, we're going to be fine. The restaurant's going to make it through this. So that was an added stress to it. And then I also was not going to my support groups, which I do 2 support groups regularly. And then I also wasn't going to my psychiatrist. And that was not good. So I did have to play all this catch up. I had to play catch up with all this work that I've done for my mental and emotional health. I did so much work for about 6 years now, and I missed it for about 6 months, and I had to play catch up again, because a lot of old feelings and a lot of old anxieties and a lot of old traumas and a lot of old things started filtering back again, where I wasn't handling it or approaching the conversation in a healthy way. So I had to
it's always a process. Nadja,
Yeah.
how have you been holding up, Nadja, during this quarantine? How have you been?
I've had a lot of emotions. Like, initially, I was like very disappointed and sad about humanity, because it was like in the beginning we all were like just hoarding and grabbing what we can and not thinking about other people and things like that. And throughout it, I have come, you know, through my faith, my family, my friends, come to be a little bit more not appreciative of it, but been able to get through it because of that. Mm-hmm. I have seen the greatness that people can do and the compassion in people, which I think in our everyday lives, we just don't think about stuff like that. So that's been nice. It's been challenging, but it's also been a learning experience in a good way.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna just first of all, I wanna thank you both for sharing that, because when we talk about mental health, when we talk about maybe having moments where we're not okay as entertainers, people sometimes are like, but you're always supposed to be okay. So thank you, because I think it's really it's good to share that we are human beings. And when you think about your performances, and especially as the world starts to open and you're gonna be back on stage probably more frequently than we can now, this question is from April, and I think it's a fun kind of light question to kind of round things out before we kind of plug what you got going on and what's coming up. But what are your all-time favorite looks of yours? Dude, I know Paris, you design your own stuff, and Nadja, I've seen your looks. They're sickening. So
I
mean,
designed half of her look.
Thank you, and I'm not as creative as most of my friends as parents. Like, I wish
you
like,
have like
either my
like
friends
a-
make something that I have a vision of, or
Yeah.
I buy it. But my all-time favorite looks is probably just like Hoochie Mama, but in a couture kind of way.
Yes.
And it's either bought or made.
All-time favorite look with Nadja is when she does S&M and she has her fishnets and she does her
crosses.
shape and it's just so fully body positive. And when she performs it too, though, she has all confidence in the world in it. And I'm like, oh, like because that's where you want, like, you know, as an entertainer. Mine is mostly, but this is how opposite her and I are. I'm Disney obsessed. I'm very Disney obsessed. So my favorite for me is definitely My Little Mermaid.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
Because that's the one where I'm like standing up and my tail is a puppet.
That's
because everybody used to like carry me on stage when I would perform it. And it was so awkward and uncomfortable. And also I'm like, oh, this is weird. I don't need you holding me like this. So I figured out a way that I could do it where I'm standing up and I still have the flippers moving around.
I love it.
Yeah, it worked out.
You know, flipping your fins, you don't get too far.
I mean,
hey, before we go, I'm going to ask you just quickly, just this one question. Nadja, if you had to describe yourself in a couple words, what would those words be?
Resilient and loving.
Love it. Paris, same question.
Compassionate and driven.
Love it. Nadja, how can people support you and your art?
You can follow me on social media, and if you need any graphic design work, whatever I'm doing right now, that would be cool.
I didn't know you do actually, I feel like everyone needs good graphics, especially for those of us who are working from home. We need posters and flyers. All right. Are we gonna reach out and support Nadja? Please follow her. Her socials are flashing on or just scrolling like CNN, but this is Queer and N, and it's floating on the bottom. Paris, how can people support you and your art?
In my entertainment world, so this upcoming Wednesday and Thursday, we are doing Seasons of Pride here at my restaurant at Inside Out. So we're doing a full drag review with 5 girls. So we're performing. I'm literally starting the show with New Year's and we're ending the show with Christmas. So we're doing all of the holidays and all of the things that we missed throughout the whole year here, which is, it's like a really great show. I'm out and about performing, but yeah, just come and visit me at Inside Out or come see both Nadja and myself. We're going to be back at Lips in April. So Lips San Diego is going to be opening back up again. So, you know, we'll be back up and going and doing it.
Well, I will be coming out to see the both of you very soon. The minute I'm fully vaccinated, I'm
holding you to that day.
Listen, I already have
at Inside Out.
I have a couple friend of mine. They happen to be a little older than me, so they have their vaccination. So they're just waiting for me to be vaccinated, and I can come spend a weekend and make sure I support you both. And I love San Diego. It's I think a place where I'll inevitably end up. I just love the sense of community there and the people. The people are just so kind. I want to thank you both for your honesty today and for entertaining the folks here. And to everyone watching right now, please, if you're watching this, consider sharing this video. Also, we'll be back on March the 25th. That's a Thursday, by the way, with another Vibe with Pride. And for more information about San Diego Pride, please go to sdpride.org. And of course, you'll find all our social media there. Please follow San Diego Pride, as well as follow me at JAI Rodriguez. And if you are in the space to give, please consider paying it forward to San Diego Pride to continue the great work that they do. Paris, Nadja, thank you so much. I had a great time chatting with you. I can't wait to see you in person. Okay. Bye, everyone.
My dear.
Out there.
Now I got to get back to work.
Bye, everyone. See you soon.